our lead this hour coming from Pro Bouncy Ball. Did you watch Game 5 of the NBA Finals? Did you check it out? No! Of course you didn't watch Game 5 of the NBA Finals. There was no Game 5. Even though Sunday night is a big television night, the dum-dums over at the NBA said, you know what, we're gonna hold off on that because of the grueling travel. These NBA teams actually travel by stagecoach to go from city to city, so they had to have that extra travel day to accommodate the long-haul trip from Miami to Denver. So in an odd scheduling situation, there was no NBA game on Sunday night. The arenas were all silent. There was nothing going on. Normally, it is a big night if you're in the television business, which we're not. We're in radio. But in television, it's a big night, big ratings and all that nonsense. So Denver goes into Game 5 an 8.5-point favorite. They were as big as a 10-point favorite at some places when the opening line came out after the game on Friday. Another systematic Denver victory. So the Nuggets favored by 8.5 going into Monday night, and the Heat, they're facing their last supper at this point here for Jimmy Butler. And the Heat, the Nuggets, one stinking win away from getting that little hunk of metal, as a commissioner in another sport calls it. Doesn't really care about those championships and all that. So Michael Malone chimed in on this. We have no game to break down, but we do have Michael Malone, who's one of these guys who's always a little angry, always a little worked up about something, whether it's contrived or not. But the Nuggets head coach, Michael Malone, addressing the media. And, of course, he's very concerned, even though his team's one win away from the championship. You wouldn't know that from the commentary, the list of worries of the Nuggets coach, as Warner Wolf used to say. Let's go to the audio tape.
My biggest concern going into any closeout game is human nature and fighting against that. You know, you're up 3-1, and, you know, most teams, when you're up 3-1, they come up for air, they relax, and they just kind of take it for granted that, we're going to win this. And the neat thing for us is that, going back to the bubble, you know, we've been down 3-1 before, and we've come back and won, and we know anything is possible. And that's why, like, my message to our team before we came down to the media in the open portion of practices was, our approach has to be that we're down 3-1. You know, they're desperate, we have to be more desperate. They're hungry, we have to be hungrier. And there is no celebrating after Game 4. We have another game that we have to win. And the closeout game is always the hardest game ever. So I'm looking forward to seeing our approach. You know, we had it in Game 6 against Phoenix. We had it in Game 5 against Minnesota. We had it in Game 4 against the Lakers. And my hope is that tomorrow night, in front of just an unbelievable crowd, incredible environment, that our players understand the opportunity in front of them and take full advantage of it.
All right, that was a lot of cliches. That was like a stream of consciousness of all of sportscliche.com from Michael Malone, the Nuggets coach. But the meat of that was the Denver coach, Michael Malone, saying and giving a warning through the media, as he is communicating yet again through the media, the message being that, hey, wait a minute here, this Miami team's going to come out desperate. They are going to be so desperate and hungry in Game 5 of the finals. Now, how likely is this? How likely is – well, so I've got Henry Ford, stethoscope, and supporting actors, and we will combine all of these things together, and we will make some baba ganoush is what we're going to make. We're going to make the baba ganoush. So to answer the question, will Miami come out desperate and hungry? Yes. Does it matter? No. It doesn't matter. This is the standard nitpicker coach from Michael Malone. It's like, you know, you can never be happy. You always have to have something to harp on. There's nothing good going on. Everything's negative, negative, negative. He should be a talk show host, Michael Malone, with this attitude. That's how we do talk radio, the way Michael Malone's going about this. It's like he's hardwired that way, and it really annoys him when the Nuggets play consistently well, because then he really has to go into the sewer to find things to complain about, right? But yes, Miami is, of course, going to come out and play desperate and hungry. That's the DNA. That's how they got to the NBA Finals, the Miami Heat, playing that way. And carrying the water, chopping the wood, and all that. And wonderful. Those are great habits to have. Those are really good habits to have. But you also have to make wide open shots, something they have not done a lot of, the wide open shots there. And you might want to occasionally slow down the Joker. But what do I know? I just do the overnight show. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that, and you don't ever need to make a wide open shot, and you never have to slow down the other team's best player. Yes. And ultimately, talent trumps hard work if the talent actually puts the work in, and the Nuggets have put the work in. And you look at Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, the yin and the yang, the peanut butter and jelly of the Denver Nuggets, and they have channeled what the Nuggets have done here in these NBA Finals, and really the playoffs all through. They've channeled Henry Ford. They have an assembly line of execution. That's like they're making the Model T. And game 2 was not great. They still had a chance. They didn't play well in game 2 of this series, and they still had a chance to tie it at the end on a Jamal Murray three-point shot that clanked and did not go in, obviously. But the tenacity and the determination and all that's wonderful. But I'd rather have the better players if they play hard all the time, something that doesn't normally happen in the NBA. Now, page 2 here. From the Miami side of things, I heard from Michael Malone, from the Miami side of things, this is now a NCAA tournament single elimination situation. You win and you get to play another day. You lose and hey, goodbye. So with that being said, Eric Spoelstra has chimed in. We have some audio we'll play for you. It's either win or get decapitated and go on a nice vacation. And Eric Spoelstra heard that Michael Malone spit out 7,000 cliches. So he said, anything he does, I can do better. So here is Coach Spo, the Miami coach, discussing what the Heat are excited about. Let's go to the audio tape.
Love playing in these kind of environments, where the crowd's going to be great, tomorrow. Everybody's counting us out. We're used to that. But ultimately, it has to be decided between those 4 lines. The crowd's not going to decide it. The narratives aren't going to decide it. Whatever the analytics are about 3-1, that ain't going to decide it. It's going to be decided between those 4 lines, whose game can get to whose game and ultimately win at the end. That's what our guys love.
Yeah, they love it. Oh, they love it so much. They intentionally fell behind 3-1 because they love it so much, the Miami Heat. This reminds me of Spoelstra years ago. We were in here on these microphones ranting. I believe it was the Dwayne Wade NBA Finals without not the last Heatles run. This is Dwayne Wade. I think Shaq was there. They were playing Dallas, Dirk Nowitzki, and he came out and famously said after the Heat had fallen behind that series by a bunch of games, and they had to go back to Dallas, and he said, "I wouldn't have it any other way." We played that for like 5 years on Fox Sports Radio because it was so stupid. We wouldn't have it any other way. Any other way. Yeah. All right, so what chances, let's get down to business, what chances do you give Miami in game number 5 here on a Monday night in Colorado? So microscopic would be the way I would answer that. Microscopic would be the chances. There'll be a lot of scratching and clawing. A lot of that. At some point, if Denver maintains a comfortable lead of around 10 points or so, at some point the white flag will go up. The flag is up, and that'll be that. But ultimately, listen, if you look at what's going on here, and a crazy crowd, and the 4 lines, and all the cliches, you can spew all the cliches out. And it's true. Analytics don't tell you who's going to win. They tell you what has happened, not necessarily what's going to happen. And all that, but Denver has been able to put on a basketball clinic. And it's like they're wearing, Jokic is wearing a stethoscope, and Jamal Murray's got one of those white doctor coats on, and they have a very surgical approach here. As Nikola Jokic is shooting double nickels in the NBA Finals, 55% in the NBA Finals, 44% from downtown, and averaging over 30 points a game and over 13 rebounds and 8 assists per game. It has been like the hockey team in Colorado. For the basketball team, it has been an avalanche is what it has been. It has been an absolute avalanche. Now, the last word here. Let's get down to business. So what does the path back into the finals look like for Miami? We've already given them a microscopic opportunity to win Game 5 and get the series back to Miami. The path is not outrageous. It's really get the game back home, but they just played a bunch of games in Miami and didn't play well. The Heat did on their home court. So it's not like getting it back home suddenly shifts the pendulum, the direction of the Heat, because the Nuggets were fine at sea level. They were all right. Are we going to hear a bunch about the altitude in Denver again and all that stuff? But the ultimate here, I'll give some free advice. The ultimate advice here from your favorite overnight gas baggery. If I'm advising the Miami Heat, and they should be paying me for this advice, I'm giving it out free. A bad job by me. But here's what I would do. You've got to create roadblocks. You've got to toss out obstacles here. Create something that they get a lot of in the Sunshine State, sinkholes. You create some sinkholes there, and you're only a sprained ankle or a messed up knee ligament away from being right back in the series. You are. So, you should never speak that out into the cosmos, but that's the reality of the sport. That as long as Nikola Jokic and or Jamal Murray stay healthy, everything's fine. But if you get a sprained ankle or a knee ligament that twists the wrong way, and all of a sudden you have a flotilla of problems. But even with that, if I look around these supporting actors from Miami, you talk about the cast and how it's an ensemble cast. They're not living up to their end of the bargain here. And it's like the Turtles here, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. These are not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. These are just turtles turtling up. And Max Strus, this is one of the single worst finals performances we've ever seen. It is unbelievably stinky. I mean, Max Strus is shooting 16% from the floor. All he's there to do is to make shots from the wide open shots. Most of those shots have been pretty open. Shooting 16% from three-point range. He's shooting 19%. Caleb Martin is shooting 35% from three-point range. And Gabe Vincent, who actually played pretty well the first couple games, the last two games back in Miami, Gabe Vincent shooting under 20% from the floor and under 10% from three-point range. I think you get the point. So there's still a chance. They haven't been destroyed yet. They haven't been buried, but it's looking pretty bad. The potatoes, the funeral potatoes are in the oven right now.